A working coexistence frame already rests on a shared language of force, legal, and economic tracks, but still on thin top-level discipline, where one wrong gesture turns into political noise. Focus moves into execution culture, informal windows, a shared tempo without spectacle, diplomacy tested in everyday life more often than in crisis, because everyday life cuts trust faster than any ultimatum. Harmony stops being an event and becomes habit. It is proven not by stacks of paper but by repeatable actions across the long haul of shared life. Early morning. An artificial dawn slowly lights up over the capital. The mission quarters wake without ceremony, service shops open below, duty drones change route, and damp light slides over terrace glass and empty crossings. The city breathes more quietly than the council hall, which is why any informal pause here sounds like a test of trust.
I didn't think you'd stay so long.
Marzides looks away from the Capitol lights to the terrace rail. Melanie's stay has lasted longer than she expected.
If you are building harmony, you cannot come for one round. We need to experience both silence and routine together, especially the days when each side suspects the other without an obvious reason.
Melanie leaves the agenda tablet untouched, watching the city below. For her, harmony starts in shared routine, not a single negotiation round.
So, today there are no disputes about borders? Or just no maps where those borders are easier to hide?
Marzides half smiles and slides the border map off the terrace table.
Today, only about the weather and how your city is learning to breathe more slowly.
Melanie opens a palm to the sky above the mission quarter. Talk of weather and how the city learns to breathe more slowly. The same embassy terrace. On the table there is an empty notebook and 2 cups, no agenda and no stamps.
Then we consolidate the informal as a working regime. 2 windows a week without an agenda and without protocol roles. The same terrace when the weather permits.
Marzides nods toward empty chairs at the terrace edge. 2 informal windows a week without protocol roles.
And the shared register line is not for the press, but for continuity. What shifted in tone, where the pause grew longer, where the route of the conversation stopped moving toward risk.
Melanie opens a slim continuity register. The shared record records a shift in tone, not a press release achievement.
If the window is cancelled twice, we publish the transfer within the mission. Silence is also a signal. I will not leave it unsigned.
Marzides taps the mission comm panel. A double cancellation must come with an internal reschedule, or silence reads as retreat.
A long mission is built on rhythm, but a schedule failure is also a political signal. Sometimes a cancelled terrace speaks before an alarm channel.
Melanie sets the register aside, watching the terrace's empty rhythm. A long mission runs on repetition, not crises alone.
The criterion is cold. Fewer escalations immediately after days of routine contact.
Marzides logs a criterion at the terrace rail. Fewer escalations right after days of routine contact. After the early informal window, teams disperse into their work contours without protocol noise. The terrace calm, where dialogue held on breath and pauses, dissolves into campus corridors where everything is measured again by procedure, access time, and precision of wording. What sounded like a human rhythm of trust minutes ago is unfolded into a repeatable scientific routine, so the next dispute is resolved by method quality, not personality. After the joint seminar, the corridor gradually becomes empty.
You argue harshly at meetings.
Lays stops at the laboratory wing's glass door. The harshness of council arguments still hits the corridor before entry.
At meetings, they argue over interests. In the laboratory, they argue over the truth.
Chloe keeps her lab coat on, pointing at the door plaque. Councils argue interests, here they argue truth.
And where are we now?
Lays nods toward the corridor junction between the admin and research blocks.
Somewhere in between. This means there is a chance to reach an agreement.
Chloe turns the lab key. Somewhere in between is already a chance at procedure, not a dead end. The same corridor of the science wing. The backlight lines go out one by one, like closing sections.
Then we translate the dispute into a procedure. 1 joint experiment per week, an appropriate methodology.
Lays pulls a weekly joint experiment slot sheet from her folio.
Published parameters, mirrored datasets, no proprietary trust me steps in the middle.
Chloe turns the terminal to mirrored datasets, no proprietary trust me step in the middle.
If the results differ, we first debug the method, not the block.
Lays taps the glass board in the corridor. If results diverge, debug the method first, not the block.
This way, politeness in the hallway becomes reproducible.
Chloe adds a reproducibility line on the board. Hallway courtesy has to become procedure.
The criterion is 1 reproducible result, which is signed by both parties without a quorum of the board.
Lays signs the draft criterion at the lab entrance. 1 reproduced result without a council quorum. Lisa's line about reproducibility without a quorum catches him on his first hours on Matanui. when there was still no official clearance in the log and the note already demanded a decision based on the fact of presence. Unscheduled exit at Trasm, the timestamp on the gate changed, and the route line in the standard log does not match what the instrument shows.
You have no clearance record.
Then we record the fact, I'm on the pad. We'll chase the clearance if the node doesn't fault out before your stamp.
Lease returns to the science wing corridor with the same rule, fact and method first, then the stamp. Otherwise reproducibility becomes a signature on emptiness. By day's end, the scientific dispute leaves the lab walls and enters the civilian contour, where clean tables suddenly acquire human scale. Under market lights, the same decisions are read not in graphs but in faces, gestures, and the tempo of urban life. Delegations carry fresh arguments about reproducibility, yet the street makes one thing immediate: the cost of error appears faster than any report. Security keeps their distance. The city lives its normal life.
It's strange to see vassal worlds in reports and here in shop windows and faces.
Isabel lingers at the finance screen where vassal worlds sit beside shop windows and faces in the hall below.
Numbers are needed for the budget. Faces, so as not to forget why this budget exists in the first place.
Livia runs a finger down the faces column on her tablet. Numbers for the till, faces so the budget's purpose isn't forgotten.
You always talk as if banking is a philosophy.
Isabel smiles at a summary where bank rows read like a manifesto.
Bad philosophy destroys currencies faster than bad mathematics.
Livia snaps shut the currency tab. Bad philosophy wrecks a currency faster than bad math. The same evening market. The guards still keep their distance. The shop windows catch the reflections of the streetlights.
Then in financial briefings we show both columns side by side, the impact on the cash register and the impact on civilian worlds.
Isabel splits the briefing screen into two columns, till and civilian worlds side by side, neither hidden behind the other.
There was already an internal pilot. It's harder to get officers to read the second column first.
Livia points to a note on the internal pilot. Officers still read the first column more easily.
Add one line, Human Resilience Index rude, but harder to hide in a footnote.
Isabel types a blunt Human Resilience Index line into the template, harder to bury in a footnote.
If politics forgets faces, the market will revolt.
Livia slaps the registry cover shut. If politics forgets faces, the market will remind them by revolt.
The criterion is stable supplies without increasing social turbulence in the vassals.
Isabel stamps the supply criterion at the sheet's foot. Stability without rising social turbulence in the vassals. Isabel's criterion on supplies without rising turbulence hooks Livia to a Reich logistics case. A reassuring assessment warehouse and a smooth cash line sat next to a queue hidden in a footnote until the street made this second column politics for free. Reich logistics node, queue for a narrow profile shipment. The warehouse reads reassuring assessment, but the wait log has grown for 3 days.
We only publish the cash column.
Then vassal turbulence stays in the shadows until a brawl at the gate. Second column, delay in person hours at the receiver next to the cash line.
That isn't a financial indicator.
It's an indicator of how long your reassuring assessment lasts. Finance is a special case.
Livia's eyes return to the market lanterns. The argument with Isabel about the index and the footnote is not a novelty, it is carrying a win over a convenient single column into mission language. As the market dims its storefronts and closes its ledgers, the agenda shifts to the drill yard, where trust is tested not through persuasive wording but through synchronized movement, endurance, and shared tempo under fatigue. Night instructors raise the same trust questions in a different grammar: load cycles, rotations, and short commands where bad reflexes show before diplomacy can explain them away. The training is over, the personnel are leaving.
We are used to seeing you as an adversary.
The garrison commander scans foreign insignia at the parade ground edge. The habit of seeing an adversary still holds the line.
The habit is strong, but it can be retrained, like muscle memory.
Sayuri squares mixed pairs on the drill ground. Habit can be retrained like muscle memory.
Where does retraining begin?
The garrison commander nods toward a rotation just ended, where retraining begins.
With respect for someone else's discipline. This is easier than immediately demanding trust.
Sayuri points to the shared instructor post. Respect for another discipline comes easier than immediate trust. The same parade ground. The equipment is put away in boxes. The dust from the exercises still lingers in the air.
Then mixed pairs on the parade ground. One of ours, one of yours, one common instructor.
The commander signals mixed pairs. One of theirs, one of yours, one shared instructor.
And debrief after each rotation. We catch friction early, cheaper than a diplomatic note.
Sayuri raises a debrief tablet after the rotation. Friction caught early costs less than a diplomatic note.
We handle this as learning analytics, not as incidents. Pride is easier to bear this way.
The garrison commander pushes the incidents folder aside. Learning analytics lets pride land more lightly than a label.
Fine. Respect for discipline is earned through general fatigue, not through speeches.
Sayuri wipes sweat from her brow. By the ranks, discipline is earned in shared fatigue, not speeches.
The criterion is fewer clashes between departments with increased coherence.
The commander checks the clash tally board, fewer skirmishes as coherence rises. After the training cycle, staff signals of friction are lifted from the yard like a seismogram of future risk and handed to the legal block without cosmetic smoothing. There, the same impulses, fatigue, ambiguity, automatic reactions, are translated into clauses and procedures to neutralize what can become a political incident in minutes at field tempo. A small meeting without the press and protocol fuss.
We are afraid of dissolving between two great blocks.
The Lin Republic delegate clutches a folio in the council antechambers. Narrow bait fear of dissolving between two great blocks.
Those who are silent dissolve. Speakers maintain form.
Apollonia keeps her voice level by the expanded council calendar. Those who stay silent dissolve. Speakers keep their shape.
What if they don't hear us?
The delegate leans into the small powers microphone slot. What if they aren't heard?
Then we will ensure that it is heard. This is why the ambassadors live here, and do not come to the parade.
Apollonia touches the ambassador's residency map. They live here, they don't come for a parade. The same quiet audience hall. On the delegate's tablet edits to the agenda, there is no press or fuss.
We need more than just admission. We need a recurring slot on the at-large council calendar.
The delegate opens the expanded council calendar, not a one-time admission but a recurring slot.
Same hour every month, with the right to amend the agenda. Not a chair by mercy.
Apollonia marks the same hour each month, with agenda amendments, not a chair by mercy.
And reading in the protocol with our wording, and not, for clarity, with someone else's retelling.
The delegate lays a strip of Republic wording on the table. The protocol must carry their text, not someone else's for clarity.
Erasure begins when translation becomes power.
Apollonia meets the delegate's eyes over the protocol draft. Erasure starts when translation becomes power.
The criterion is decisions taking into account our edits, and not formal presence in the room.
The delegate closes the folio at the chamber door. Criterion: decisions that honor their edits, not formal presence alone. Once legal caveats are locked and responsibility lines are explicit, operators shift the process into cartographic mode, where abstract formulas become routes, sectors, and control windows again. On holographic layers, every term is anchored to coordinates, timestamps, and action order that can be tested under real pressure. The routes of portal corridors are visible above the city.
Today you are calmer.
Sky keeps her eyes on the branching forecast on the roof. Rebecca is noticeably calmer today.
When people start talking about everyday life, and not about ultimatums, this is a good sign.
Rebecca rests on the rail beside the everyday life feed screen. Ultimatums have given way to household talk.
The future still branches sharply.
Sky traces a sharp fork on the future display.
Let it branch. The main thing is that now among the branches there are paths to the world.
Rebecca highlights a reassuring assessment path to peace on the branch tree. Let it branch, so long as paths remain among the forks.
Let's add an interpretation rule. The forecast sets the decision window, but does not replace political choice.
Sky overlays an interpretation rule on the forecast. The decision window must not replace political choice.
Right. A forecast is only useful when translated into a specific time-based action.
Rebecca touches the time scale on a forecast branch. Without an hour anchor, the model is staff decoration again.
Then we add a range of uncertainty to each forecast so as not to pass off probability as fact.
Sky softens the confidence contour edges. A number on the map no longer reads as the staff's only answer.
This will reduce political decisions made on the illusion of absolute accuracy.
Rebecca kills hard truth mode on the console, where probability hid behind one green sector. A band of question remains.
And we introduce double confirmation based on external data before launching strict measures.
Sky pulls two independent verification streams until both align. Strict measures stay draft only with no launch right. The same roof of the embassy complex. At night, portal tracks pulsate more smoothly than during the day.
When it's quiet on the roof, you want a channel for alarm, without alert levels.
Rebecca watches the even pulse of night portals. Between roof silence and staff siren, she needs a third slit where readiness tiers don't fit.
Gray flag, not a war forecast, but a request for human conversation at 12 o'clock.
Sky drops a pale mark on the shared layer without combat color. The gray flag asks for conversation by noon, not escalation by midnight.
Both missions honor him, without press and without credit. Otherwise the channel dies.
Rebecca seals the credit ledger for this line. If the signal becomes a report trophy, the roof loses early smoke again.
Then we protect from the bureaucratic box. One line, one person responsible on each side.
Sky leaves one live line and two names in the channel. Long forms won't swallow the request while a named watch officer answers.
Harmony needs early smoke signals that are not rockets.
Rebecca nods toward city lights below. Smoke without strike trajectory beats elegant silence between summits. After boundary reconciliation, delegations move straight into the engineering sector, where political frames are decomposed into working components, communications channels, compatibility rules, and failure points that rhetoric cannot mask. Negotiation here runs in interface language, so the next conflict is met by system logic, not last-minute improvisation. No cameras, no flags, no escort within speaking distance.
Sometimes it seems to me that we are not governed by states, but by accumulated fatigue.
Titan stops on the closed park gravel. In the hush, fatigue sounds louder than any anthem on the flagpole.
This is also part of management. Empires get tired just like people.
Kelvin doesn't argue the metaphor. Weekly meltdowns stack on his chart as evenly as crew biorhythm.
And what cures such fatigue if neither of us has the right to look weaker before our own?
Titan waits for an answer without diplomatic smile, but question reads as engineering intake, not tribune speech.
Predictability. Rules. In several years without disasters that no one can record as a victory over the neighbor.
Kelvin counts the cure on his fingers. Each word is measurable. Contact rhythm, rule text, length of a calm window. The same closed park. All you can hear are footsteps on the gravel and the distant rumble of the city beyond the fence.
Then a weekly short strategic brief, without cameras and without press theses, only forks and obligations.
Titan proposes a format where only forks and obligations stay on the table, cameras and press theses remain outside the park gate.
We alternate who asks the opening question so that it doesn't become a game of dominance.
Kelvin marks alternating first word in the calendar, otherwise the weekly brief becomes a quiet duel for tone-setting rights.
If the enemy is fatigue, the cure is predictable contact, not infrequent summits.
Titan glances at rare summit flashes on the ribbon, too many nights between them where fatigue decides instead of staff.
Success is measured not by warm meetings, but by fewer midnight meltdowns after weeks of silence.
Kelvin drops a midnight meltdown counter into the shared log, a crude indicator, still honester than parade declarations.
The criterion is fewer emergency solutions due to accumulated misunderstanding.
Titan sets the threshold. Emergency calls after weeks of silence are symptom to him, not watchroom courage. As soon as the technical contour gains working shape and first checks confirm channel integrity, focus shifts to the financial module, where every agreement casts a monetary shadow. Resilience is counted differently here: disruption cost, cascade latency, and the market's ability to absorb overload without panic. Small hall. No official statements or press releases.
Today we have a rare format. A meeting without obligatory points.
Marzid slides the empty agenda aside. In the small hall there's no must-say column for once this week.
Sometimes it is these meetings that do more than minutes.
Melanie keeps her glass below eye level. Without agenda items, talk won't shatter into quotable press lines.
Because here you can ask simple questions without fear of being called weak.
Lays looks at a table without protocol seals. A simple question here costs less than years of withheld words at council.
And here's simple answers that then save years of stress.
Livia nods toward the circle by the glass. An answer without pathos is backup corridor on the map to her.
Then let's raise a toast to this, to a long mission in which we learn to live side by side while staying honest enough not to pretend we are one side.
Titan lifts his glass just above shoulder height. A toast without cameras, with those who'll argue at the map again tomorrow. Lisa's line about simple questions without fear of weakness pulls him back to the night of Titan's revolution on Matanui, when the table held not slogans but a node blueprint and 3 options for closing the risk window before the street. Closed staff corner, revolution, on the hollow, gate power and cooling, politicians argue around it.
We'll close that with words tomorrow.
Tomorrow they'll buy it with the street. Engineering speaks now. We switch the loop before dawn, while the window isn't someone else's order.
Lise looks at the mission's small hall without revolutionary haste, but with the same caliber. A simple question costs less than years of things left unsaid. The same small hall. After the general circle around the glass, there remains a narrow conversation at the window.
We sign many protocols, but without live cultural exchange they quickly lose their human meaning.
Apollonia touches the sign stack by the window. Paper chills for her without live exchange behind it, not a showcase.
Then we transfer culture into a stable outline. General festivals, exchange of curatorial programs and grants for vassal schools, budget items, not atmosphere.
Livia opens the budget on the SIL festival and school grants sit in rows beside fuel, not under a mood column.
And a separate fund of bilingual publications so that Reich and the Empire can read each other without being distorted by retellings.
Apollonia runs along bilingual spines and the fund mock-up foreign text should arrive in the author's voice, not a mediator's retelling.
I support. Where a common language appears, the market and security cease to live in panic mode.
Livia shifts the market layer on the map, where languages meet. The panic curve flattens for her before fleet escort kicks in.
We capture cultural exchange as a long bridge between two powers, and not as a one-time showcase.
Apollonia strips the one-off pilot tag from the mock-up. The budgeted bridge must outlive a curator swap, not vanish after a parade. When the financial session closes, decision packets move into the humanitarian track, where dry coefficients are translated into everyday scale, access to basic resources, stability of local services, and the tolerance limits of the periphery. This is where error cost appears first, often before central offices even register the signal. The parade ground is almost empty. 3 are sitting directly on boxes with training equipment.
Is everyone in Reich so stubborn?
Isabel sits on a warm gear crate. The question lands quietly, like a parade ground check, not a lecture on nationhood.
No, only those who survive to command.
Sayuri looks toward the empty parade ground. Stubbornness isn't national trait to her, it's the price of surviving to someone else's shift.
It was a compliment, Isabel. Accept it silently.
Rebecca glances between the two officers. On the border she delivers a compliment without a smile so it won't get rewritten into a report.
Listen, your humor is always so prickly.
Isabel's smile catches at the corner. Prickliness is parade ground habit, but she's asking why it's always shaped that way.
Certainly. Gentle humor does not work well at the border.
Rebecca nods toward the training crates. Gentle jokes here read too much like weakness in the shift log. The same parade ground. The equipment boxes are still warm from the last rotation.
Then we tie the joke to the execution. Mixed shifts on the parade ground, one chain of commands, the same fatigue.
Isabel taps the crate with her knuckles. Humor must stand on the same fatigue as the order, or it eats trust.
And the 5-minute debrief on tone is not accusations, but patterns.
Sayuri marks a short post-shift circle on the tablet. 5 minutes on tone, no accusations, only recurring knots.
If humor is the safety valve, rotation is the pipe. Both are needed, otherwise humor will become an ulcer and eat away trust.
Rebecca palms the shift diagram. A valve without pipe turns the joke into an ulcer on the shared channel.
I don't want a partnership that ends when the boxes are empty.
Isabel looks at the emptied crates. Partnership should outlast the training day, not vanish with the last round.
The criterion is fewer micro-conflicts in joint logistics channels after a general vacation.
Sayuri logs a rest marker on the parade register. If microflares return after shared downtime, rotation failed. Once humanitarian indicators are consolidated in a common ledger and cross-block gaps are named explicitly, negotiations return to the force level layer where the architecture's limit case is tested. There is no room for comfortable pauses. The contour must hold a minute-scale response under real crisis pressure. Night. The drink machine is louder than the conversations all day.
If one more adjutant says, "This is a historical moment," I will start charging them attacks for pathos.
Livia sets her mug on the drink machine. The night canteen hums louder than talks, and pathos isn't free to her anymore.
Place a progressive bet. For the word historical, there is a double tariff.
Melanie sketches a penalty scale on a napkin. Historical costs double, and both know who'll hit the tariff first.
For unprecedented, triple.
Livia adds a third step. Unprecedented costs more to her than any real crisis on the ribbon.
Finally, a useful reform.
Melanie laughs into the empty canteen. A reform without cameras or top-down decree finally feels honest today. The same night canteen of the embassy. The drink machine fills up the water again, monotonously and loudly.
Each pretentious phrase comes with a measurable KPI. Otherwise it will not be included in the tracker.
Livia opens the internal tracker. Pathos without a number doesn't pass draft stage, like an order without coordinates.
First, we publish the tax inside. If you survive laughter, you will survive politics.
Melanie drops the tax mock-up into the team chat. Laughter in a narrow circle is a harsher filter than top-down censorship.
And we reward the team that cleared out the most empty adjectives in a week. A small thing, but it teaches taste.
Livia starts an empty adjective table. The weekly winner earns not a medal but the right to read drafts without jaw ache.
Fine. Missions die from narrative inflation earlier than from an enemy attack.
Melanie eyes the ribbon of historical phrasing. Inflated speech kills the mission faster than enemy fire to her.
The criterion is fewer declarative items and more closed actions on a common tracker.
Livia closes another declarative item in the tracker. Success is closed actions, not fresh slogans on the wall. After force-level validation, teams deliberately lower tempo and transition into a cultural educational beat, recognizing that long resilience cannot be assembled by directives and alarm protocols alone. This slower, quieter work builds shared normalcy through recurring symbols, practices, and information rituals. There is a mess of calculations and diagrams on the table. Both were clearly Tikris's assessment.
We've been arguing for 6 hours. Is this actually friendship or a scientific duel?
Bloom pushes the schematic stack aside. 6 hours of argument on the table look like a lab duel where friendship is measured in stamina, not hugs.
For scientists, it's the same thing.
Chloe doesn't lift her eyes from the calculation. For her, friendship and duel meet where argument tests hypothesis, not status.
If everything works tomorrow, I'll admit that you were right.
Bloom pencils the prototype boundary, promising to admit she's right. Hinges on tomorrow's contour, not tonight's mood.
This is the 5th time you've promised this.
Chloe keeps her eyes on the bench schematic. For her, a 6-hour argument with Bloom is friendship and duel in one breed.
That's why you shouldn't be given access to meeting minutes.
Bloom traps the meeting minutes folder under an elbow. Official link can't house someone who promises prettily and dodges failure records. The same joint laboratory. The same diagrams are on the table, but the border of the prototype is already outlined in pencil.
Nobody leaves until the boundary of the prototype is defined. It may fail, but the boundary must be fair.
At the same bench, the penciled prototype rim becomes the exit door. Let the contour collapse, but an honest boundary must stand before dawn.
And we alternate who writes the failure log. The prestige is in honesty, not in winning the night.
Chloe sets a blank failure log between the schematics. Rotation of authors matters more than a night when you can't reproduce tomorrow.
If friendship is a duel, completion is proof, not vibe.
Bloom peels fuzzy almost their stickers off the rim. In this duel, only a finished contour counts, not the fatigue vibe.
In the morning, we compare notes before the diplomats ask for breakthroughs.
Chloe aligns 2 note columns under the lamp. Morning reconcile must beat the diplomat's breakthrough. Ask that ships without numbers.
The criterion is a working, reproducible outline of the prototype without manual miracles.
Bloom traces the closed loop on the sheet. The criterion holds only if the next watch can repeat it without a manual miracle. When the cultural cycle is no longer decorative and becomes structural, legal and operational, groups merge it with response rules into one responsibility matrix. Their goal is to prevent dual interpretations of the same incident, so every term and threshold is tightened to keep the system from splitting at peak stress. The doors are still closed, the delegations are waiting outside.
Sometimes it seems to me that we spend more time on formulations than on solutions.
Titan waits by the sealed hall doors where delegations already murmur. More minutes vanish into wording than any hero narrative admits.
Formulations are solutions, just in a less heroic package.
Kelvin lifts a narrow sheet of paired definitions. For him, the decision already lives in the line the hall cannot read 2 ways.
That's why I respect you. You know how to kill romance with one phrase.
Titan's half smile in the corridor dim respects the exact point where romance stops substituting for responsibility.
This is my government function.
Kelvin resets the clip on the legal traditions folder, as if killing pathos were office duty, not temperament. The same corridor in front of the large hall. Behind the heavy doors, the roar of those gathered grows.
2 minutes, 1 pass. Highlight any term that, in our legal traditions, is read in 2 opposite senses.
Kelvin starts a 2-minute timer and scrolls the opening list. Every term with twin readings must flare before the doors swing wide.
If we argue, we settle it here, not in front of an audience that will weaponize ambiguity.
Titan looks away from the door crack, meaning fights stay in the corridor where ambiguity is Repacris's assessment, not auctioned.
We alternate who reads aloud. The ear catches pathos that the eye will forgive.
Kelvin hands the sheet to Titan. A loud reading snags the ceremonial, turns a screen forgiving I would swallow.
Less drama in the room means fewer clarification statements that are actually digressions.
Titan nods at a blank clarification pad by the door. Every spare statement in the hall should die unborn.
The criterion is 0 procedural disruptions due to discrepancies in terms of the opening of the meeting.
Kelvin zeroes the disruption counter on the opening draft. If terms diverge after this pass, blame lands on prep, not the hall. After emergency procedures are checked, the mission enters a final working dry run, the most mundane and therefore most honest stage of the whole construct. Teams verify the agreements can survive not only alarm moments but ordinary days, where discipline is tested by routine rather than fear. The city is noisy below, quiet above.
Have you noticed that the ambassadors began to argue more quietly?
Lays looks down where the city hums, asking about quieter. Ambassador fights lands heavier than last week's terrorist shout.
Yes, And this is more dangerous than screaming.
Marzides won't raise her voice on the balcony. Quiet below scares her more than shouting because listening has finally started.
Why?
Lay stills at the rail. A short why holds the wind as if the answer will rewrite the night page's rules.
Because talking quietly usually means people are finally listening.
Marzides watches street smoke. Quiet talk below means the quarrel stopped being a volume contest. The same balcony of the science center. The wind blows smoke from the streets. There is more silence at the top than at the bottom.
Then the night page quiet conflict. What was heard, what remained open, without scoring.
Lays opens a narrow pad on the rail. The quiet conflict page logs what landed and what stayed open. No victory table.
If it grows teeth, we lift it into formal channels with timestamps.
Marzides traces an empty timestamp line. If the quiet knot grows teeth, it climbs formal lanes dated, not whispered.
And we prohibit using the log as leverage in other people's battles. Once, and everyone is loud again.
Lay snaps the pad shut once. The quiet log must not become someone else's club, or everyone returns to shouting.
Listening is fragile. Wrap it once in a lever and everyone returns to screaming.
Marzides nods into the street wind. Listening here is frilier than any formula. One lever and the balcony relearns volume.
The criterion is more agreement at lower volumes without overpowering the essence.
Lays marks a volume scale in the corner. The criterion holds if agreements rise while essence isn't muted for quiet's sake. A quiet talk with Marzides about listening louder than shouting draws least to the closed lab of the strike project, where Titan's reference curves hung on the wall, not for a personality cult, but for load calibrating the future cybermage. Project Marzides lab, on the table, an agreed power module pack and a decision log.
Check. The reference holds responsibility, not just strike.
Then into the firmware, a chain of decisions, not one grounds. We don't copy a person. Copying is more dangerous than armor.
On the balcony, Lise folds the memory into one thread. Marzides beside him is a living reminder that quiet negotiation and quiet lab work rest on the same discipline. Don't drown substance in volume.
On the balcony, it's easier not to fight about personality. You hear where silence is discipline, and where it's fatigue.
Marzides leans on the rail. Up here you can hear where silence is negotiation discipline and where both sides simply ran out of strength.
Fatigue is an honest signal too. It must not be turned into a signature on someone else's decision.
Lays won't fight the wind. Fatigue on the balcony is honest, but it must not sign someone else's decision as if it were assent.
Then we pin the difference in words. Pause is not agreement. Pause is a verification window.
Marzides writes two words side by side in the margin. Pause and agreement split by a verification window, not a signature.
And while the window is open, no parallel pretty versions in side channels.
Lays kills a wrist pop-up side channel, while the pause window stays open. Pretty parallel versions are as forbidden as shouting.
Otherwise we teach the system to fear silence again.
Marzides watches the lights below. Parallel versions in silence will teach the machine to fear pause again, like before.
The system should fear only one thing, when silence replaces the log.
Lays brings her eyes back to the pad. The only fear the system may keep here is silence swapped for an unverified report.
A log without a timestamp is myth again.
Marzides scratches an empty date line. A report without a stamp becomes myth again. Argued from memory tomorrow.
The stamp isn't theater. It's the boundary between we thought and we verified.
Lays sets a trial timestamp in the margin, not theater, but a fence between we thought and we verified before the hall.
Then the next move in the hall isn't louder, clearer. Who holds the promise tail through the full cycle?
Marzides eyes the hall doors below. The next move isn't louder, but who carries the promise tail through the full cycle without substitution?
The tail is held by whoever can show repeatable action without a camera.
Lace takes her hand off the rail. The promise tail belongs to whoever can show repeatable action without cameras or applause.
Good. I'm not asking for heroism. I'm asking for the same fatigue, so it isn't sold as weakness.
Marzides speaks under the wind. She asks not for heroics but shared fatigue. Nobody can auction as weakness in the hall.
Fatigue without clarity is dangerous. Clarity without respect for the other side's tempo, also.
Lays nods toward the city. Fatigue without clarity breaks the pact as surely as clarity that ignores the other side's tempo.
Then in the final assembly I'll speak shorter and harder about what's measurable.
Marzides pockets the pad. In final assembly she'll trade balcony confession for short lines and hard measurables. By the final note of the act, both sides arrive without demonstrative gestures or symbolic posturing. What remains is a dry final assembly of contours where only compatibility, tempo, and execution predictability matter. In that quiet, each module must prove readiness for a long shared distance. No cameras. No transcripts. Only people who are tired of being symbols. After that line, Marzides can't keep attention on the abstract symbol. Resin and reference curves on the wall return bodily memory faster than the hall becomes a quote or start inside Lotus.
A reference is responsibility you can carry without a throne.
And Queen of Anet is not a crown. It's discipline of the soul route. Don't blow the wiring with beauty.
Understood. Then the error stays in the log, not in silence.
I'm on record as saying local cuisine is underrated.
So Yuri sets a mug among asymmetric chairs, no cameras, no transcript, her on-record line smells of broth, not protocol.
I'll chalk this up as the most unexpected diplomatic breakthrough of the month.
Isabel scratches the line on a napkin, not in the ledger. The month's breakthrough is ink you can crumple and unfold again.
If you will sign this on the record now, I will sell copies to collectors.
Livia lifts a blank protocol sheet as a joke. The threat to sell copies keeps kitchen laughter one step from real seals.
And I'll buy one, so that no one would later say that the harmony was too serious.
Rebecca leaves a coin on the table's edge. One bought copy of the joke ensures against the story that Harmony never laughed.
This is the format in which you sometimes need to meet, when you are a person first, and only then an empire.
Titan slides an empty plate aside. At this table, Empire waits its turn after the person, or the format cracks the first night. The same informal embassy room. The mugs are haphazard. There are no transcripts or recordings.
Then we defend the format. Repeatability, small company, without a mandatory order of ranks at the table.
So Yuri resets mugs without ceremonial rank order. The format runs on repeatability and small company, not seating by title.
And the rule is against random entries. Trust here is binary.
Isabel sweeps a stray recorder off the rim. Trust here is binary, no random captures, or the format dies.
If someone violates it once, the room is closed for a month. Tough, but honest.
So Yuri palms the informal room's doorframe. One recording breach shutters the space for a month. Harsh, but without fake second chances.
Pedestals are tiring, the mission needs a floor.
Isabel clears an empty speech pedestal from the table's edge. Pedestals tire. The mission needs a floor you can eat on without rank.
The criterion is that after meetings, the number of mutual suspicions in operational channels decreases.
So Yuri marks a target dip in mutual suspicion on the ops channel tablet. The informal dinner counts only if the numbers confirm the tone.